there wasn't one pivotal moment. It was a culmination of doing little things that scared me every single day. And so I just learnt to kind of stretch that muscle of being uncomfortable. And every day I'd be like, cool, I'm just going to do one little thing, whether it be reach out to someone I really admire and let them know I loved their latest episode of their podcast, or contact a potential client who I really admired and I would have would love to shoot them one day, and do a collab.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, those things are really scary.
Hello, I'm Olivia D'Souza. I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I'm a content and podcast expert. I support visionary entrepreneurs and leaders passionate about living with purpose. Join me as we explore podcasting, life, business, and authenticity. Subscribe for meaningful conversations with a business buddy who gets what it's like. Welcome to Magnetic Pod. I'm stepping in the next little me. I'm here to be everything. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing a visual visionary and award-winning birth photographer who's taken her passion to beyond the lens and to now helping other photographers to build their businesses and spread their message. So don't think I'll get too far into it. I will let you introduce yourself. Belle Verdiglione.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. Thanks, Livy. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast. Yes, you're so right. I used to be a birth photographer for over 9 years. And then when I sort of realized that I didn't want to be on call anymore, having 2 young, beautiful children, I transitioned to be a branding photographer. And now I coach and mentor other creatives and photographers in my signature program, the Camera Queens.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so excited to have you here. I've been listening to your podcast and I really love what you're all about. So thanks for being here. Oh my goodness. I mean, just to do birth photography, to do a thing where it involves being on call, obviously you're a very passionate person. So tell me, how did you get to be doing photography and then from there to what you do now?
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you. So I've always been a photographer. I picked up a camera when I was super young. My dad was a hobbyist. And so it was something that was really valued in our family. And I did modeling back in teenage years. Oh my gosh, so funny. And so I had a lot of friends who were really comfortable in front of the camera. And so I had my little trusty, back then it was all film, and I would just ask my friends if they would model for me. And it was just incredible. I built my skills up that way. I went to university and studied photography straight out of school and just surrounded myself with books about photography and conversations about, just things that I wasn't really exposed to growing up. And I really loved the deepness and the emotion that you can capture in a photograph. And I did a lot of traveling. I played in a band. I, had every job you could possibly think of. And it was only after the birth of my second baby in 2011 that I actually went back to photography, started my business, and decided that I had to do birth photography. And it just felt really aligned and like this was what I was meant to do. And back then there were hardly any birth photographers in the world. Oh, sorry, I hope smashed
Knock
then.
the mic, that's okay.
This is what happens when you interview a Italian. I'm just hands everywhere. And so, it was a genre of photography that was really unknown. And a lot of people just why would you want your birth photographed? Ew. And they just had no idea about the beauty, the magic, the transformation that can happen when a woman or non-binary person gives birth, and the creative process of that and the birth portal and all of the things that I know you're a mother as well. It just transcends time and space. And there's just something really profound that happens. And I know for me personally, I went through so many different identity shifts and changes. And, my first birth didn't go as planned. And I hear that a lot with my birthing families is they might have wanted a certain type of birth or to have felt a certain way and it didn't go to plan. And so they really researched and strived to have a different experience the second time around. And that's exactly what happened to me. I had a home birth after cesarean, and it was just such a life-changing, just transformative moment. And I reclaimed a lot of my voice after the birth of my second child. We won't go into all of that, but I know as a singer, you can probably relate to the similarities between the cervix and the throat. Is it the larynx? Do you know that they're actually? Oh, you'll have to research that.
Okay.
So it actually visually looks exactly the same, and that's why a lot of women, after they birth their babies, they will birth a business because it opens this creative portal, or they'll change what they're doing for work, or and also there's that complexity of once you have a child, nothing's the same anyway. Your whole world is different, and you're living for someone else as well. And I think photography is such a natural progression. A lot of my mentees will say things like, oh, I had my baby, I was at home, I was, on maternity leave, and then I wanted some extra income, and I was already taking photos of my child anyway. So it felt like this beautiful natural progression to start a photography business. And then they get into it because they loved it, right? They lit up by it. They're passionate by it. It's, it fuels that creative spark that we all need. And then they go, oh, I don't know how to market myself. I don't know how to brand myself. I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to price myself. And so they will either get out of it because they don't know, all of the business side of things, and it's not profitable, it's not sustainable, they burn out, or they will find a coach or an education like mentor that can help them with all the things that they need. And that's where I come in.
Wonderful. Amazing. So, and you also said that I've seen somewhere that you do energy work. Can you tell me what that is about?
Yeah. So one thing that I found while I was in the birth space is there is a lot of, like, I don't want to say pain, but obviously we're in, discomfort. And so I found that I actually studied Reiki. I did my master's in it. And I think I think we're all, if we're empathic and we're a bit sensitive anyway, I think we naturally can give energy to someone else and it provides a little bit of relief. But I found that I could bring that into my doula and photography services for births and help, my birthing families with a little bit of ease of that discomfort that they felt during labor. And just being able to hold space. I think sometimes we don't, there's no rule book on how to have a baby or how to be a birth photographer or how to be in the room. And even as much as I love, medical care providers, there's some nurses or doctors that actually have no idea how to hold space for, what is going on in front of them. Like I've seen doctors literally bang open doors. The birthing person is in the middle of a really intense surge or contraction, and they're just sort of talking at them. And so that's like a lack of understanding of the physiological side of the brain and what happens in the birthing process. We go into that primitive primal state of our brain where we're not cognitive of being able to have our critical faculties switched on and think, and answer questions, which is why it's so important to have a partner or a doula or a support person there to be able to answer those questions and to have our wishes met, or our birth preferences honored. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? They might know, there might be, with all respect and everything, but I guess, sometimes there's a lack of awareness with some people that they know the to-do list of things to happen, but they don't see other things that are right in front of them that are obvious to you if you have that empathy and insight to see what's going on behind behind the surface. It's obvious to some people and invisible to others.
Yeah, 100%.
So you help photographers, and we were talking, I was just on your podcast, and we did touch on talking about this block that can come up for creative people around actually having a monetary value and or how to or whether they can monetize their art. So can you speak on that? How does that come up for people that you help?
Oh, 100%. So first of all, I believe, and this is a Brené Brown quote, is that there's no, creative people and non-creative people. We are all creative. It's just that some of us use it as our craft and some of us do it in other ways, or we haven't tapped into that. So I'd really love to preface that by saying that. But I was studying I was studying photography at uni, and even my lecturers at the time really bought into that starving artist philosophy. Like they would sort of laugh even and just be like, no one ever makes money from photography. Or, it just was like sort of fed to us. And there wasn't at the time in the program, there was no business component of it, literally. So it was like you're doing all of this photography and you're learning about all of these amazing ideas and techniques and that, but there was no mindset or business element. And anyone that runs a business, I know, and anyone that runs a business, that's literally the foundations, right? We need to know our ideal client, our niche, like how to express ourselves, how to find our identity, how to brand ourselves, how to, stand out from the crowd. And then there's that layer of, oh my gosh, like we've got all of this inner dialogue that happens. And it's like, how do we overcome those fears and these thoughts that where all of us are not immune to it? It's just that when these thoughts come up for me, and my main one is I'm not good enough, right? And I know a lot of people listening will relate to that. Like, I'm not good enough. No one's ever going to want to buy my art or listen to what I have to say. And so it's like, how do we bring someone who's just done this 3-year degree out into the world to start their own business without the tools that they need to succeed? And so that's sort of where I realized that there was all the things that I was missing is what I actually was like, okay, I need to help other people now, because if I was feeling isolated, alone, not knowing where to turn to or who to ask questions for, and then, I might go into a photography group and there's men and women and they're all different genres and all different age groups. And then I'd ask a question, I'd feel really silly. Or people would answer, but they only give you a little bit. They're gatekeeping because then they're worried that you're going to steal their location or steal their clients. And so there's that. I just noticed a couple of things. I noticed there was a lack of abundant mindset. There was a lack of helping someone set unrealistic goals. So I'm really big on wild, impossible goals, because I believe that we've all been raised. I'm a person living a very privileged life, so I want to acknowledge that. But I've been conditioned by the society. I've grown up in the culture. I've grown up in the religion. I've grown up in the teachers, my care providers, the media, it's all around us. And so I was taking on beliefs and ideas about the world and who I am and about my craft from other people. And it took me so long. I'm 46 now, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of unlearning that I've had to do, and become really aware of all of these stories and ideas and the way that I was seeing the world. I was like, is this me? Is this actually what I believe or what I think about the world? Or is this being passed down from, the lived experience of my parents or my care providers or, the media? And so something that I'm really passionate about is actually if time, money, energy wasn't an issue and I could wave a magic wand right now, what do you want? How do you want your life to look? How much money do you want in your life? How much freedom? Like, are you traveling? Are you living overseas? Like, are you in a different house? What are the clothes that you're wearing? Who are you surrounding yourself with? And so I'm really big on not having SMART goals. I know we're fed that a lot, and I'm not sure how you personally feel about that, but I'm like, let's be unrealistic. Let's actually have incredible, like, it doesn't matter if we don't reach them. So if your goal's like $1 million to call in for the next year, which to some people, they can't even like dream about that. It's too much, right? It's too much. But I've stretched my nervous system and my like idea of what's possible or what's not possible so much that I'm like, cool, I'm going to call in 7 figures in the next year. Great, let's do it. If let's say I only reach 500K or half of that, amazing, laughing, so happy.
Yeah. And it just means you're halfway there.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
it's like growing a tree or whatever. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. You just got to give it time to actually happen. But what you're saying is actually reminding me of what we were saying when I was being interviewed on your podcast about that whole thing about toddlers. And that's something I've watched I've got a 9-year-old son and a 3-year-old girl. And I think I feel sad that past the age, when they start going to school, I feel like we've got to unlearn what happens from there a lot of the time, because you were talking about the things that we learn, and that seems to happen from school years onwards. We were talking about how we celebrate little children stumbling and trying to walk and falling down, and we cheer them on. And what happens along the way that we learn all these things that are so indoctrinated that we can't even see them or realize that it's happening, these limiting beliefs. So how did you get from getting to the end of your degree and it reminds me too of schools, schools where we say that you're not learning life skills and finance and paying your taxes and stuff. And then you do a photography course, but you don't learn how to actually make money out of it. I guess it's the employee mindset. They hope you'll get a job and get paid by someone. But so how did you get to this place where you expanded your mindset?
Oh, it's a journey, and I'm still learning and I'm still open to growing and all of the things. But I really think that there wasn't one pivotal moment or, one breathwork session or one ice bath or anything like that. It was like it was a culmination of doing little things that scared me every single day. And so I just learnt to kind of stretch that muscle of being uncomfortable and getting out of my, comfort zone. And I sort of like every day I'd be like, cool, I'm just going to do one little thing, whether it be reach out to someone I really admire and let them know I loved their latest episode of their podcast, or contact a potential client who I really admired and I would have would love to shoot them one day, and do a collab.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like those things are really scary. And it could even be just go on Instagram and do a story or post a selfie. Like those things used to absolutely scare me. I would never, if you'd said to me 3 years ago, you're going to have your own podcast, you're going to be interviewing guests, you're going to be speaking to a room full of people, you're going to be running workshops, you're going to be asked to go, around Australia running retreats and all the things, I would have laughed at you. And I was like, no, it's never going to happen. And one of my coaches, this was quite a long time ago, she said to me something, when you hear something that you need to hear, but you don't like it. It's really something that you don't want to hear. And it was along the lines of, I can't think verbatim right now. It's just flown out of my brain, but it was about me. Oh, that's right. She said, you're on the top 5 list of people who didn't live up to their potential.
Oh, that's hard to hear, isn't it? that just strikes kind of a fear into your heart that that's not what you want to do with your life. Oh, goodness, what did that do to you?
Yeah. So at the time, I didn't even get angry. I wasn't even like, oh, that's so rude or anything. I actually just took it on and I sat with it. And I was like, oh, that was really hard, like in my body, like, whoa. And I'm like, how am I not living authentically? How am I letting the thoughts in my head dictate how I'm living my life? How am I not showing up to help others? How am I not living in alignment with my purpose? How am I letting other people's potential thoughts and what they thought of me or what I did also run the show? And so the more I started, I'm obsessed with like neuro-linguistic programming and neuroscience and how the brain works. And so I sort of like, I've done a lot of different, therapies and hypnotherapy and all the things. And in that, I discovered, and I'm sure you know this as well, that we only use 5% of our conscious mind and the rest of it is subconscious. So if I'm only aware of 5%, I kind of think of it like the computer screen. And then in the background, we've got programs and updates and installs and all the things, antivirusware and all this stuff that's going on behind the scenes. So if that's 95% of what is happening, like what's going on back there that I don't have any control over. So I guess it was sort of when I started becoming really aware of how I work, how my brain works, my trauma responses, all of that, my life started changing and I was able to sort of get out of that scarcity mindset and sort of, look at different things that I was uncomfortable by and found opportunities to grow in those. And the more you do it, the less scary it is, right?
So how did you access that 95%? Was that through all those type of therapies that you just mentioned, through the breath work and the NLP and the...
Yeah, so I've only just done my master's in NLP, but it was like I started with different, like natural therapies, homeopathics, flower essences, seeing a hypnotherapist, kinesiology. I could go on. There's breath work, there's ice baths. I did a lot of somatic work as well. One of my beautiful friends does a Romi, which is a traditional Māori somatic release. I went to retreats, workshops, sound healings, like anything. I was just like, give them all to me and I will then see which one sort of aligns. And through that as well, I honestly feel like people come into your life and different coaches present themselves when they're meant to. And so, yeah, I've been a big fan of personal development and also having business coaches and mindset coaches for the last 4 years. And honestly, it just really fast tracks everything and you just quantum leap, because of that, having that support and that help.
So how do you use these tools now with your clients?
So with the NLP, I am only just like, because I don't do a lot of one-on-ones. I do a lot of group coaching, but I'm slowly starting to integrate the NLP practices into my one-on-ones. But again, we've got that, haven't really done it before. I'm a bit uncomfortable. I'm a bit scared. Like, can I do it? All of that coming up for me. But that's sort of something that I'm really working on to implement, because I honestly believe NLP is such an amazing platform to help people really dive into their subconscious and just work out what's programmed and what's not, and just all of the things. And I think it's more about providing a safe place for people to land. So a big component of Camera Queens is the community aspect. And humans are humans. They just want to be seen. They just want to be heard.
Yeah.
Right? And anyone listening to this can relate to it, right? We just want our feelings validated. And I think it's more just I'm aware if, say, for example, someone's projecting onto me and I know it's their own money issues or their own challenges with something, I won't take things personally because I know it's not about me. It's actually I'm either activating something in them or they haven't worked on a particular point. And so I might then do a coaching call that's not calling them forward. It's more about a story where I've gone through a similar thing and I might have projected onto a coach. And so I'll do it in that way where I'm not making anyone feel horrible or called out or just like, less than, because that's not helpful for anyone, right? But it's more about opportunities for people to sort of level up. And integrity is one of my biggest values. And so if someone, and when we have shame and guilt, you would know this as well, like we can like procrastinate, we can drop out, we can like, oh, I haven't attended anything live. I'm so behind in this or blah, blah, whatever it is, it's the shame spiral. And then people hide. So I might, reach out to them, right? And just be like, hey, I've noticed that you haven't been on any calls or you haven't been active in the group. How are you? Are you okay? And just open up a conversation.
You know what I'm thinking? Something as simple as that is brilliant, because I have a bit of a thing with my like hairdressers. I've gone to different hairdressers and then I feel like I've cheated on them by going to a different one. So I'm just feeling like it's a similar feeling if they've dropped out, they're embarrassed to show their face again. Oh, look, I failed. I haven't been showing up. So by you just reaching out, it just breaks the ice. I think that's a simple thing that's really, really important.
And in that moment, they're feeling seen because I've noticed that they're not showing up. And then I've provided a place for them to actually say, like, I've got so many competing priorities right now. My energy level's really low, or can you suggest something to help me in this time? And then I'll go, great, now I understand what's happening with you. I can go through it. Whereas someone else might go, oh, that person hasn't shown up for 5 coaching calls. They must think this program's absolute, SHIT, or that I'm a bad coach, or they don't, whatever it is. And we make it mean something about ourselves, right?
The stories we tell ourselves. It's so important to be self-aware, and it can be really challenging to know that you're actually seeing things the way that they are. I mean, do we ever really see things the way that they are? We all see it from our perspective, and we've got to just make sure we're not sabotaging ourselves with
100%.
how we perceive situations.
Yeah, so I'll just tell you a really quick story that when I run workshops, we might have 10 photographers. We're all in the exact same location, the same model, the same outfit, everything's the same light. And then I see their photos afterwards, and I honestly, it just floors me the amount of differences, because it's the lens they chose, the angle they chose, the editing style, it's their unique spin on what was in front of them. And so you're right, like we do see the world so differently through our own lens, and that's beautiful because we don't want to be the same.
That's a beautiful photography take on what I said. I love that. How you see the world through the photography lens, literally. Now, you have a podcast. Obviously, being in the podcast space, that's my special interest. So why did you decide to have a podcast for your business? How does that work for you?
Yeah, so really quick, I did want to start a podcast back in 2019, and it was a visual podcast. I wanted it to interview people either literally who were in Perth, I'm in Perth, Western Australia, in a bubble bath, drinking mimosas, and we've got bikinis on or bathers on, and I'm just like, great. Or they would be in the bath, or, they would be in the bath at the same time I'm interviewing them. I even set up, I think I had about 5 guests lined up, and, I was so excited about it. And then I just got in my head about, the technical side of things, like how can I do this? No one's going to listen to me as well. Like what microphone to get? How am I, like, what is the platform that I'm going to use? And it was just too overwhelming. And so I shut that down and I parked that until April this year. I launched Camera Queens, and I guess I wanted to do it because with integrity, if I say I'm going to do something, I have to do it. Otherwise, I do feel like I'm a little bit of a failure, or, you know, I said something and now I'm reneging on it. And, you know, I wanted to give others permission to do it as well, to do the hard thing. And I was really honest with my audience, and I said, this is really hard for me. I'm really scared about using my voice in this way. I'm really scared about what other people are going to think. I'm scared about it being a flop and people not downloading it. I didn't even know that there were charts. Like, this is how naive I was. And then at the time, my podcast manager was like, you know, you're like top 20 in the Entrepreneur Australian charts. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. Right? And then like the next week she'd be like, oh, you're still in the charts. You're in Hong Kong. You're in Ireland. You're in like France. Like, and I was like, I don't even know. Like, I don't understand. And so she had to kind of explain to me that what downloads means, and like charts are a really good thing, and it means people are listening and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, because that wasn't never my intention. Like, I hear people say, I want to get 10,000 downloads and I want to get, they want to monetize it and sponsorships or whatever the term is in the podcast world. But that was never my intention. My intention was, it was quite a selfish one. It was because I said it back in 2019. I was like, I have to do it. And I just also wanted to reclaim my voice in a way that I just did it. Because I think growing up, I was, you know, and it's no fault of my parents or the people around me, but I was very loud, very like quirky. I wouldn't think before I spoke and things like that. And so I was often told, the Italian in me is coming out here. I was often told, you know, shh, be quiet, like go sit at the kids' table. Because I was always that kid that wanted to sit with the adults and be a part of their conversation and interrupt them and, you know, have attention all the time. And after a while, you know, going back to what you're saying about the toddler in school, and you learn to shut up. You learn that your voice isn't important. You learn that what you have to say doesn't matter. And so it was kind of like, going through that unlearning process that we spoke about earlier, and then realizing that it's okay to say, it's okay to swear. It's okay to be a bit of a bogan, because I'm self-professed bogan here. And if people don't like that, that's amazing. They won't listen. They won't be a part of my community. They won't, you know, tune in, but maybe they're the ones that actually need to hear the message in only the way that I can say it and deliver it. And so now what I do, if someone, you know, I might be on Facebook and I'll be tagged, and someone, you know, and I'll look at the post and it will be like, I'm looking for someone who can teach me business, or I'm looking for a photography coach, and I'll be tagged, and then I'll literally say to them, I'm not for everyone. And so maybe have a listen to the podcast. And then if you like my flavor, let's have a chat. And they'll either be like, holy shit, can I just sign up? Oh, I just swore. I hope that's okay. Can I sign up to your program? Or how can I work with you further? Or this is amazing. Or I just won't hear from them. And that's perfect, because I don't want to be the coach for everyone. You know, just like, you'll attract your amazing clients, and they'll be amazing because you're so like-minded. You've got similar values. You're in the same, you know, mindset.
Absolutely. So it sounds to you, it basically came down to doing it to be true to yourself. So that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you have then. Well, okay. Well, pretty much before we wrap up, is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like people to know? How can people work with you?
I just think, yeah, absolutely. You can find me in the show notes. We can just pop that. It's just my name, Belle Verdiglione. But I think it's just really important to understand that we live in a world and a society that is bombarded with messages of you're not good enough.
Mhm.
And we see this everywhere. Marketing, advertisements, like everything we see, it's like you need this latest product to have the best life ever. You need to buy this item of clothing to feel like you've made it, right? And I think it's really important to have space in your day and in your week to come home to your heart, to come home to yourself, to breathe, to sit in gratitude, to appreciate what you do have. Because often we're like, when I win lotto, I'll buy that house or go on that holiday. Or when I lose 10 kilos, I'll hire that photographer for that family shoot or whatever it is. And it's like, no, how can we get uncomfortable and sit in that scary feeling and just do the damn thing now, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to get to 80 or 90 or 100 and be on your deathbed and go, damn, I wish I'd gotten a boudoir shoot when I was 30 and embraced my body back then, you know, or I'd wish I'd not cared about like how I looked and I, you know, took those selfies or took family photos or all of that. And I think that's just really beautiful because, you know, our life is so precious. Our life is so fleeting. And it's really important for us to take stock of that and just, be really grateful.
Photos are the most precious thing. And then my favorite present too. So yeah, I think for all your photographers there to know that my favorite thing is if anything that comes in a photo, like if it's a canvas or it's a trinket or something with a photo, is the most sentimental present you can have. It's a memory, it's a moment. So it's a very special gift. So
yeah, and at the end of I know it's a bit dark, but at the end of life, like that's all we have left. And you know, if you had a fire in your house, like what's the first thing you would take? Is your albums or your USBs or like maybe your computer, because photos are just so precious. So yeah, this is your reminder: book your photographer, pay them well, and love on them.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
And we'll put all the links so people can find you in the show notes.
I'm stepping in the next level of me. I'm here to be everything I can be. Like a snake, I'm shedding my skin to be my wild next level of me. I'm stepping in the next level of me. I'm here to be everything I can be. Give you whiplash when you turn around and see me go again. Next level of me. It's time to be.
Hello, it's Livy here. Have you ever wondered about what the key elements are that make a podcast truly stand out? Or maybe you're thinking about starting your own special podcast and feel a bit overwhelmed and don't know where to start? Well, I have something for you. Introducing the Ultimate Podcast Checklist. Da, 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 da. It's a step-by-step guide that covers everything from the initial brainstorming to advanced growth strategies. It's the perfect companion for both new and seasoned podcasters. And the best part, it's absolutely free. Da, 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 da. To grab your copy, simply head to the show notes of this episode and you will find a direct link there, and then away you go. Remember, every podcast started with that initial spark and the right resource, so let the Ultimate Podcasting Checklist be yours.